You know what? I am sick and tired of WWE treating legends like they are disposable. For months, we've watched the Vision systematically destroy everything Centimeter Punk has built, and where was Triple H? Where was Adam Pearce? They sat back and let one of the greatest minds in wrestling history get absolutely demolished week after week. But last night on Raw, something happened that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. And if you think this was just another run-of-the-mill return, you clearly haven't been paying attention to what's really going on behind the scenes. Before we break down this earth-shattering moment that has the entire wrestling world in complete chaos, we have a quick request for you. We are constantly working to improve our content to earn your love and support. That's why we would truly appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update here on Wrestling Zone Insider. Now let me paint the picture for you. Raw opened with the Vision, Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci standing in the ring like they owned the place. And honestly, at this point, they practically do. They've been running roughshod over the entire roster for 3 months straight. Gunther grabbed the microphone with that smug look plastered across his face and proceeded to declare that Centimeter Punk's era was officially over. He didn't just say it, he proclaimed it like some kind of wrestling emperor. The crowd was booing so loud you could barely hear him, but Gunther kept going. He said that Punk represented everything wrong with modern wrestling, the ego, the entitlement, the constant complaints about respect. Kaiser chimed in, mocking Punk's numerous injuries and suggesting that maybe, just maybe, Punk should have stayed retired. The disrespect was palpable, and you could feel the tension in that arena ready to explode. Then Punk's music hit. The place went absolutely nuclear. But when Punk walked out, something was different. He was limping. His ribs were taped. This man looked like he'd been through a war, because he had been through a war. The Vision had put him through announce tables, steel steps, and last week's brutal assault with a steel chair left him barely able to stand. Yet there he was, microphone in hand, ready to fight back with the only weapon he had left, his words. Punk stood at the top of the ramp and delivered one of the most passionate promos of his entire career. He talked about how the Vision represented everything he fought against throughout his legendary run. The arrogance, the belief that European supremacy somehow made them better than everyone else, the systematic dismantling of what wrestling should truly represent. He called Gunther a bully hiding behind his accomplices, a coward who needed 2 men to do what he couldn't do alone. The words cut deep. You could see Gunther's face turning red with rage. Kaiser and Vinci looked ready to charge up that ramp and finish what they started. Punk challenged Gunther to a one-on-one match right there, right then, no interference, no backup, just 2 men settling their differences the old-fashioned way. Gunther laughed. That condescending, dismissive laugh that makes your blood boil. He said Punk wasn't in any condition to compete and that putting him out of his misery would be too easy. Instead, the Vision wanted to make an example out of Punk. They wanted to show the entire locker room what happens when you stand against their vision of what WWE should become. All 3 members of the Vision started walking up the ramp. Punk tried to get into a fighting stance, but you could see the pain shooting through his body. This was going to be a massacre. The crowd was screaming, begging for someone, anyone, to come help. But the locker room stayed empty. Whether out of fear or indifference, nobody came. The Vision surrounded Punk like a pack of wolves. Kaiser grabbed Punk's injured arm. Vinci positioned himself for a devastating clothesline. Gunther stood back, ready to deliver that crushing powerbomb that had finished off so many opponents before. This looked like the end of Centimeter Punk's comeback story before it ever really got started. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness. The arena fell silent for just a moment, that eerie quiet before the storm. Then, break the walls down. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the explosion of noise from that crowd could have shattered glass. The place went insane. Chris Jericho's music blasted through the speakers, and when those lights came back on, there he was, standing on the stage in full gear, baseball bat in hand, looking like he was ready to go to war. Here's our first trivia question for you. In what year did Chris Jericho and Centimeter Punk have their legendary feud that many consider one of the best storylines of that era? Drop your answer in the comments below. The Vision froze. You could see the shock on their faces. Nobody expected this. Jericho hadn't been seen in WWE since his previous run ended over 2 years ago. There were rumors, of course, there are always rumors in wrestling, but nothing concrete. Yet here he was, charging down that ramp like a man possessed. Jericho swung that bat, and the Vision scattered like cockroaches when the lights come on. Kaiser and Vinci bailed to the sides while Gunther retreated down the ramp, screaming at his partners to regroup. Jericho helped Punk to his feet, and these 2 men, who have had their share of legendary battles against each other, stood side by side, united against a common enemy. The stare down was electric. Gunther pointed at both of them, yelling that this changed nothing, that the Vision would destroy them both. Jericho grabbed a microphone and delivered a promo that reminded everyone why he's one of the greatest talkers in wrestling history. He said he'd been watching the Vision's reign of terror from afar, and every week it made him sicker and sicker. He couldn't stand by anymore while these knockoff versions of actual European legends disgraced his industry. Jericho acknowledged his complicated history with Punk. They've been allies, they've been enemies, they've beaten the hell out of each other in classic matches that fans still talk about today. But one thing they've always had is mutual respect for what the other brings to professional wrestling. And watching the Vision try to end Punk's career out of pure spite, that crossed a line Jericho couldn't ignore. Punk grabbed the microphone and you could hear the emotion in his voice. He thanked Jericho for having his back when nobody else would. He admitted that he never thought he'd see the day when Chris Jericho would be the one saving him from a beatdown, but he was grateful nonetheless. Then Punk turned his attention back to the Vision and issued a challenge that sent the crowd into another frenzy. Punk and Jericho versus Gunther and Kaiser next week on Raw, with the stipulation that if Punk and Jericho win, Vince is banned from ringside for any future Vision matches. The implications of this are massive. Gunther has relied on his numbers advantage for months now. Taking away even one member of his crew could completely shift the power dynamic. But Gunther, never one to back down, accepted the challenge immediately. He said that beating both Punk and Jericho in the same match would cement the Vision's dominance once and for all. Now, let's talk about what this means for the bigger picture, because there are layers to this story that you might not be considering. First, Jericho's return isn't just about helping Punk, it's about legacy. Jericho has always positioned himself as someone who protects the integrity of professional wrestling. He's been vocal about the importance of storytelling, of making sure that the business he loves doesn't get corrupted by people who only care about dominance and control. The Vision represents everything Jericho has fought against throughout his career. They are bullies who use their size and numbers to intimidate rather than earning respect through actual in-ring excellence. Yes, Gunther is an incredible wrestler, nobody can deny that, but the way the Vision operates goes against everything that the old guard believes wrestling should be about. Second, this alliance between Punk and Jericho is fragile at best. These are two of the biggest egos in wrestling history. How long can they coexist before their own competitive nature tears them apart? The Vision knows this, and you can bet they are going to exploit every crack in this partnership. We might see Gunther trying to plant seeds of doubt, reminding Jericho of all the times Punk has burned his bridges, or telling Punk that Jericho is just using him to get back into the spotlight. Here's our second trivia question. Chris Jericho has won the Intercontinental Championship multiple times in WWE. Can you name how many times he's held that title? Let us know in the comments. Third, and this is where things get really interesting, there are backstage reports suggesting that this storyline could lead to something much bigger at WrestleMania. Sources close to the situation have indicated that WWE is planning a massive multi-man match that could include several returning legends alongside current stars, all centered around this conflict between the Vision's New World Order and those fighting to preserve wrestling's traditional values. The social media reaction has been absolutely bonkers. Within minutes of Jericho's return, the hashtag Jericho Saves Punk was trending worldwide. Fans are creating incredible video packages, artwork, and even booking fantasy scenarios for where this story could go. The wrestling community hasn't been this unified in excitement about a storyline in a very long time. But here's what has me most intrigued and slightly concerned. WWE has a history of starting incredible angles and then dropping the ball on the follow-through. We've seen it happen time and time again where something starts white hot and then fizzles out because creative loses interest or someone backstage changes their mind about the direction. This story has unlimited potential, but it needs to be handled carefully. The tag team match next week is absolutely crucial. If they deliver a classic that lives up to the hype, this could be the beginning of the hottest storyline in wrestling today. But if it feels rushed, if the booking doesn't make sense, if the Vision wins too easily or Punk and Jericho win too cleanly without drama, it could deflate all the momentum they've built. Let's also address the elephant in the room. Where does this leave the rest of the roster? The Vision has been terrorizing multiple wrestlers for months. Are we going to see others join the fight against them? Could we potentially see a faction war breaking out with multiple teams choosing sides? The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this so exciting. There's also the question of Jericho's physical condition. The man is a legend, no doubt, but he's not getting any younger. Can he still go at the level required to make this feud believable? Based on what we saw last night, the answer appears to be yes. He looked sharp, he moved well, and most importantly, he looked motivated. There's nothing more dangerous than a motivated Chris Jericho. For Centimeter Punk, this is a lifeline. He's been drowning under the Vision's assault, and just when it looked like his comeback story was going to end in tragedy, Jericho threw him a rope. But Punk's pride won't let him be just the guy who needed saving. You can guarantee he's going to want to prove he can still hang with the best, that his injuries haven't diminished his abilities. That internal struggle, needing help but hating that he needs it, could create some incredibly compelling television. The WWE Universe is buzzing with theories and predictions. Some think this is leading to Jericho turning on Punk, using him to get back into the main event scene before stabbing him in the back. Others believe we'll see Punk's paranoia and trust issues drive Jericho away, playing into Punk's historical pattern of self-destruction. A third group thinks this is actually the beginning of a beautiful friendship that will see both legends cementing their Hall of Fame legacies by taking down the biggest threat WWE has seen in years. What do you think is going to happen? Are Punk and Jericho going to successfully take down the Vision, or is this partnership doomed to failure? Will we see more legends return to join the fight? Could someone like Seth Rollins, who has his own history with both Punk and the Vision, insert himself into this situation? The variables are endless, and that's what makes wrestling beautiful when it's done right. This Raw episode will go down as one of the most memorable of the year, and we're only in January. If WWE can maintain this level of intensity and storytelling throughout the build to their next premium live event, we're in for an absolute treat. The wrestling world needed something to rally around, something that felt special and important, and last night delivered exactly that. Make sure you drop your predictions in the comments section below. Tell us where you think this story is going, who you want to see join the fight, and whether you believe Punk and Jericho can actually work together long enough to take down the Vision. And don't forget to answer those trivia questions we dropped earlier. Let's see how well you know your wrestling history. The countdown to next week's tag team match has already begun, and you better believe we'll be here breaking down every development, every promo, and every twist in this incredible story. This is the kind of wrestling that reminds us why we fell in love with this business in the first place.